What's up, everybody, and welcome to the post-draft of the Scouting Combine here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I hope you guys really enjoyed watching the NFL Draft in our live stream 3 weeks ago. Now we're back into OTAs, especially here for the Miami Dolphins, especially here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure you guys tune in to our Dolphins coverage, along with our Heat and Panthers playoff coverage as well. I'd like to bring on a special guest who's been on the show before on the Scouting Combine, but on a different network. My good friend, Thor Nystrom of NBC Sports Edge. Thor, what you drinking there, bud?
Coffee.
Okay, you got to give the audience a little bit of a story of why I changed it from noon to 2 p.m. today.
Yeah, it's not your fault. It's definitely mine. We were supposed to be on an hour ago, and I definitely just woke up about an hour ago. I woke up past the time when we were supposed to start because I definitely slept past noon. And like I was telling you, like post draft, I do not set an alarm because for 2 months I basically work from the moment I get up in the morning from sun up until way past sundown. And so when the draft gets done, I do not set an alarm. And there are some days where I might sleep until past noon. And that's definitely what happened today, unfortunately. So I'm very sorry that we started up late today.
And it's perfectly fun. I think you've earned the right as well as your pre-draft, post-draft coverage, and in-draft coverage was really, really good. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. But look, the Miami Dolphins, right? Whatever. They only had 4 picks. But they got Tyreek Hill from the Kansas City Chiefs, essentially being their 2 first-round picks and a second-rounder as well. Draft picks are only good to get cheap parts. You know, at this point, the team needs superstars to add to an already good value mix. And even so, among all of the Georgia defensive players we all have talked about leading up to this draft process, Channing Tindall was the one who slipped through the cracks. Your thoughts on Channing Tindall first and foremost, Thor?
I like Channing Tindall a lot. I was saying this in the pre-draft process, and I've written this multiple times afterwards. He outplayed Quay Walker last year. Like we talked about how Quay Walker was a surprise first-round pick. I think it goes the same way that for me, Channing Tindall was a very surprise third-round pick. He should have gone before then, in the same way that, in my opinion, Quay Walker shouldn't have been a first-round pick. I think those guys are very, very close. In my rankings, they were very close. So, and just as far as Channing Tindall's game, one way that you can get more value out of him in the NFL, as you probably know, Georgia's defense, the way that their scheme was, it's funny because their defense was so dominant, but they play a little bit conservative in the front seven. You know, their defensive front is so dominant. And so a lot of time, and we talked about this as far as their front seven guys go, because we talk about how those guys didn't have the counting stats, that you would expect based on their talent level, and how they would occupy guys and then let their, the linebackers sort of run around, stuff like that. Well, the same thing went for some of the linebackers, where they wouldn't sort of unleash those guys and let them come downhill and, for instance, blitz as much as maybe in some other schemes you'd allow them to do. Channing Tindall, his pressure rate per snap, it was very, very high. It's just that they didn't let him blitz as much as maybe some other teams would have allowed him to. I think in the NFL, if you unleash him a little bit more on the blitz, you're going to get a lot of utility there. So that's just one area of his game that I think is going to flower a lot in the NFL, where just at Georgia, they didn't need that guy to effing blitz just because they had so much talent around. Why would you risk it on any given play?
I absolutely love the fact you bring up his blitz numbers as well. With the addition of him, it affirms that despite Brian Flores' infamous departure in Miami's continued this standard operating procedure. His snap percentage leapt up in 2021 in unison with the Bulldogs defense, increasing their linebacker pressure calls by 20% or more on all 3 downs. So it went like this, basically, and we're deep diving a little bit into Georgia's defense if you guys are into that kind of thing. It was a 57% frequency for linebackers on first and second down when calling pressures or simulated pressures. Compared to 2020, it was super conservative at a 25% rate versus 77% frequency for linebackers on first and second down when calling pressure in 2021 at a 53% occurrence rate. I know I'm throwing percentages out there, occurrence, simulated, whatever. If you guys want this in the gist of this as you guys are watching, Just think, they blitz a shit ton on first and second down. Okay. And a large part why Georgia embraced those second level pressure looks for these linebackers is because of the explosiveness of Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Trayvon Walker, and especially Channing Tindall. And look, when we're talking about Channing Tindall, and I put it in my article here at 5 Reasons Sports, he really got into it with the linebacker coaches in his pre-draft visit as well. The Dolphins loved his character, but he's fast. 4 for 40 time. 6'2". Now, he might not be the prototypical middle linebacker everybody's looking for. He hits hard, and he flies by a blocker, blowing up run plays. Like, if you've seen his coverage skills, Thor, and I know you have, I mean, he can go stride for stride with the running backs and slot wide receivers as well.
Sure can. Yeah. Yeah.
It's reminiscent of like a big nickel or a strong safety in the slot position. And he can play press man too.
Yeah, and that's a part of the reason why it wasn't just him, Nakobe Dean and some of those other guys. I wanted to see them blitzing more, but they were so good in coverage that you could see why Kirby Smart would maybe deploy them in coverage as much as he did, right?
Of course. And just like projecting on what you think Tindall will do, like what's your projection for Channing Tindall at the next level, and especially here in Miami?
Well, one of the good things about him is for instance, I'm just thinking of a different linebacker. For instance, Leo Chenal, right? Leo Chenal is he's like a little muscled up pit bull type linebacker where you can play him on the edge or you can play him close to the box, but like he's a downhill only linebacker. He doesn't go side to side, and you don't want him playing with his back to the ball. Like, I'm afraid of Leo Chenal in coverage. Like what you want him doing, it's against the run coming downhill, and he can also rush the passer. But the coverage stuff, that stuff is more precarious. Channing Tindall, in my opinion, there's not one thing that you're afraid of him doing, right? Like, he's a well-rounded linebacker. So, again, going back to the thing where I was a little bit surprised that he fell as late as he did. And if you're Miami and you didn't have a pick in the first couple of rounds, this is a part of the reason why I gave Miami – I'm the hardest grader in the industry, and I gave them a pretty high grade, at least as far as I go. If that's your first pick, that's a pretty damn good day at the office, and that's why I really like Channing Tindall as a prospect.
And look, the fact that you explained how easily I wanted Chenal as well, just because Miami already had coverage guys for the linebackers. They had pass rush guys as well. They didn't have a downhill guy, and that's why I was more so leaning towards Chenal compared to Tindall. But when I look back more so at the film, Miami's defense, they like multiplicity, especially in the defense. And Chenal as a downhill guy would be a liability in coverage. Channing Tindall is more so a scrape type of linebacker that can play the run, that can play the pass as well. And, as Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel said it in their post-draft presser, when you watch the film, especially for Georgia, it's a very talented defense in how they used him. Used him as a spy, used him to blitz, covers backs, just a lot of ways that are kind of similar to how he will probably be used here in Miami in different schemes is the exact same way he was used in Georgia. I think it'll just be like a seamless transition for him. I mean, it's likely that I do think he'll be used as an inside linebacker, but that's not all he can do. He can be a Mike, he can be a Sam, he can be a Will as well. Well, like, what is your player comp for Channing Tindall in the NFL?
I had Darrell Washington on him. And I think, it's interesting because that defense was so talented, and he came on a little bit later, right? And so some of these guys had already established themselves. And so he was sort of trying to fit in around these other guys that were sort of already set pieces there. And that was, and then he sort of displayed these things where they were fitting him in, and then he got to show all these varied skills that we were talking about. I think Miami now can try to see where he best fits, but we already know now that he has all these varied skills, right? And again, now you see where those skills best fit long term, but we know that he has them. And I think the other thing that should be stated is, like, Georgia had a historically dominant defense last year, And Tindall was an enormous contributor to it, despite the fact that, again, he had to fight his way into that lineup, et cetera. So I think he's a pretty exciting prospect, and I think he's going to do stuff for Miami immediately and going forward.
And look, just projecting just a little bit what he can do. I think he's going to compete for first team snaps in training camp alongside Landon Roberts and Jerome Baker at the inside linebacker position. Like, just his tackling skills and his ability to very efficient. Very good. And it's something Miami's linebacker core has been missing. And just his ability to get into the backfield should stand out to Miami's defensive coaches. Like, if you think about Georgia, they had defensive tackles. Oh my God,
Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt.
Yeah, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt. And I was thinking about Jalen Carter as well sometimes as a rotation. I don't know. I had Carter in my head first compared to Devontae Wyatt and them. But your starting defensive tackles for the Miami Dolphins are Christian Wilkins and Raekwon Davis, which is as good as any defensive tackle duo in the NFL. That's a little bit similar to Devontae Wyatt and Jordan Davis, just a little bit. Now, the Dolphins need all the pocket pressure it can get with the Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots, and New York Jets, all entering the seasons with explosive offenses. Maybe the New England Patriots, we don't know about them yet. The Jets, man, but definitely the Buffalo Bills. But look, Miami needs second level players to be strong in the pass rush and in wrapping players to prevent big gains. And Tindall can do both. And a lot of people basically hinted at the fact that Channing Tindall is the solution for Josh Allen once the Dolphins play the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. I mean, you have to find players like that, right? I mean, Josh Allen's sort of what do you call it? Unicorn type player? I mean, right. you got to find unicorny type defenders for that. You got to find big fluid athletes, defensively that both, I mean, we were talking about it before, both that can be out in coverage, right? But then also can rush the passer. And also, you mentioned it, can spy the quarterback, right? So a guy that can be in space that not only is big fluid athlete, but also that has the play strength to bring down an enormous 250-pound plus freak in the open field.
Of course. And now we're going to move on to their second selection, which was in the 4th round. Wide receiver Erik Ezukanma from Texas Tech. Now, look, with the 125th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, they selected him. And initially in the draft process, after going through media footage, the Miami Dolphins were interested in Ezukanma, or Easy for short. And they had a formal interview process with them as well. Big 6'2" wide receiver with a lot of great physical traits and solid hands, and could potentially see him develop into a legit starting wideout in 2 to 3 years from now. Initially, what was your scouting analysis on Erik Ezukanma?
He is raw, but he is so interesting. So one thing I'll say about him is his situation at Texas Tech was never good. Right. Like last year. Okay. So last year is when I thought it was going to jump up because they had brought in Tyler Shuck and from Oregon, and he was like a ballyhooed quarterback recruit. And that was when I was like, okay, now this is Ezukanma's time, because when you see Ezukanma, it's like he is built well and he can do all these different things. Like you can line him up all over the place. You can bring him into the backfield. Like he's one of those kids that can he can literally do all these different things. He's fast. He can just literally you can get him the ball in all these different ways. He can make people miss. He can run away from you. Get built awesome, break tackles, all this different shit. And so last year is finally we finally have this kid a quarterback, because for the past couple of years, he's been playing with all these noodle arm guys that lack accuracy. It was like Henry Colomby and all these dirt kickers, all these just terrible quarterbacks. And so finally it was Tyler Shuck, and then Shuck breaks his collarbone or whatever it was, 3 games in.
And then a head coaching change as well.
Yes. And then they fired the coach. It was a really unfortunate time for Ezukanma in college. So at this point, he's still, you're still wondering, is it just the raw thing? Because is it just that, or was it just the circumstance thing? Because there is still that unrefined element to his game. It's like a lesser version of the guys that we've seen these past couple of years, where all their touches are manufactured close to the line, and then they run Laviska Shenault, Rondale Moore, a better version of that from this past class, Treylon Burks, right? Where they move around the formation or even in the backfield, they get the ball, and then it's like, you have to manufacture all of our offense for us by running, right? But what you love about Ezukanma, the guy looks like he was created in a lab to play football. He moves awesome. He breaks tackles. He looks great. The potential has always been there. I've always wanted to see that guy playing with a real quarterback. And the great thing is for him now with Tua, people always nitpick Tua's arm, and that's fine. But the one thing you can't nitpick with Tua, he has short area accuracy and he has intermediate accuracy, and he throws with tempo, right? So that's what Ezukanma can do. He's going to get open in the short and intermediate area, and he can run after the catch. So that, as far as that goes, that is a fit. So at least he found the right team, and we can go from there.
And, as we mentioned prior, and I love the Tua bit as well, and we'll get a little more into that Tua Ezukanma with some stats as well. I did some digging on that as well. Revolving door at quarterback. Coaching change was not ideal. And some of the drops he showed as well, you go back to the point. Is it rawness? But we know he has strong hands. He's learning how to adjust to other quarterbacks as well. I mean, his production during the beginning of the season was red hot. 13 catches, 322 yards in his first 2 games. And
with shots.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's big in the Big 12 as well, especially as an offense like Texas Tech. Look, he said himself, he's a versatile guy. He can fit in right with Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. He talked about Waddle and Hill, just their deep speed versus how they can line up all across as wide receivers. He can also line up with Waddle and Hill, and in the backfield as well. Just be that deep threat down the field guy. Talked about Yak, talked about Rack as well. You put him anywhere on the field, and he feels like he can help the team at any situation. And look, I think especially with Mike McDaniel as his head coach and offensive coordinator, I think it's going to be fun for him. Just reiterating the point, he had 200 yards after the first contact and 377 yards after the catch overall. Played all wide receiver positions, wildcat quarterback, and running back. And just like my favorite asset of him is just his versatility. I mean, he's got the size, 6'2", 209, got the length and the strength to defeat press jams, and he blocks. He blocks.
Yes, blocks.
How many wide receivers do you see coming out of the draft can block like him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so I got all the stats up on my database. He had a 74.8 PFF blocking grade last year. That is way high for this class. High. Way high. I mean, like I was just talking the eye test, but that's empirical for this class. That is way high.
And you think about it, like how just his body type as well. He's very, very.
That guy is thick. He's with thick. A CC, yeah.
2 C's, 3 C's. That
C's.
Thick.
Yeah.
That boy thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. Let me tell you that right now. But he's very like just body type comparable to like a Devontae Parker who the Dolphins shipped out. A guy who I liked last year, Nico Collins, reminds me a lot like Nico Collins coming out as well. You can say maybe like Isaiah Ford, like an 87% comp to Isaiah Ford, who is also on the Dolphins as well. And often, he's going to be asked to block as one. I do think that Mike McDaniel will get him ways to get the football as one, especially to like knowing, like just deep diving as well. He had an 89% on target catch percentage for all wide receivers, and he was 29th. And think about it. What kind of quarterbacks he had at Texas Tech? You had Tyler Shaw, broken collarbone. You had like 2-3 different quarterbacks, coaching change. Then the offense went straight into the gutter as well. And 89% is kind of high. And then you factor in Tua. Accurate in the short and intermediate game. Plays with tempo. With this new offense, you're going to see some deep balls as one with a guy like him who's big, who's fast. He's going to catch the ball. He's got strong hands, and he makes acrobatic catches like crazy. I don't know if y'all watched the Oklahoma game, but that was a great game for Ezukanma just to see his acrobatic catch ability as well.
Yeah, and I wonder, just Mike McDaniel, he is such a creative coach, such a creative offensive coach. You have to imagine that one of the big reasons they targeted Ezukanma, obviously the Deebo Samuel innovations. You have to imagine that a part of it with Ezukanma is that short area and in the backfield stuff. I wonder if some of that Deebo Samuel stuff you're going to see manifested with Ezukanma, or at least start like trying it out in training camp to see if he can do some of that stuff. I wonder if you're going to see him in the backfield some. We'll see, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see him in doing some of that Deebo Samuel stuff, because he is certainly built for it.
A lot of people have been saying that a lot of the people that the Dolphins have, that they could be turned into Deebo Samuel, like Lynn Bowden, like a Tyreek Hill, like Ezukanma as well. I think he's going to be a vital part of Miami's red zone offense. 6'2", almost 6'3". Look, Miami has a lot of speed on the outside, but they could use more physicality alongside Mike Gesicki on those inside routes. Now, Hill and Waddle will get the majority of targets from Tua, but Ezukanma could chip in with a few touchdown catches if he adjusts well to the offense. He could also be called on in possession-based situations in which Hill, Waddle, Cedric Wilson are off the field or used as decoys in some specific plays. Now, I don't think it'll be such a big role for Ezukanma, like it would be like a small to medium-sized role, because the top two wide receivers are so important, but he can carve out a niche inside of Miami's offense because of his size and his nose for the end zone. Now, you comped him to Mac Hollins. Curious as to why.
In part because of the body size, and in part because of the varied skill set. Mac Hollins could do a whole bunch of different things at UNC. And then in part two, I'm always trying to, with the comps, I always want to I don't want to go too high with the draft equity with the comp. So you're trying to play like 3-dimensional chess with it. You don't want to go like too high with where the guy's going to get drafted. So it's
right.
like, yeah, anyway. So I was trying to get, a guy that too is going to get drafted close to where I thought Ezukanma would get drafted. Ezukanma was a hard guy to comp because there weren't a million guys like him that had gotten drafted like the last 5 years that had the varied skill set like that were super analogous to an athlete like he was, that were coming from a terrible collegiate situation. And then also, like I said before, and I'll say this, I'm still sort of hazy about Ezukanma. Like I said before, like, is it context? Is he raw? Is it like, I think Ezukanma could go both ways, right? Like I still do. I am extremely intrigued by the guy, but I still don't know. Was it his collegiate situation or what it was? But he has all the physical tools that you need, and he's so versatile. So I'm very excited to see how his career plays out, and I think he found the perfect situation.
Fun fact, Ezukanma translate to is a bed in Spanish. Shake money, thank you for that as well. Vince Tailgate. Again, make sure you guys hit and smash that like button as well. And if you guys want to donate to the channel, go ahead as well. I know today I'm not eating food I ate before. I know Donald's not in today as well. I usually eat a lot. Once I ate chicken biryani, I had chicken wings, I had a Philly steak while actually podcasting live as well. Thor. Today I'm just drinking Costco water. Should have had cheese grits today, to be honest.
I was just eating peanut butter out of the bottom of the jar before I jumped on because I only had 20 minutes. I guess I should have done it on the stream in hindsight.
I know. I should have had my chicken sandwich. I was eating, to be honest. Otherwise, I mean, I wouldn't be talking as fast as I am right now. As we move on from Erik Ezukanma, one of the 7th-round selections Miami drafted was Cameron Goode, linebacker out of California. More so like an NFL tweener, 6'3", 240 pounds. Produced 20.5 sacks in college, and he could turn some of that pass rushing prowess into an NFL career as a pass rush specialist. Now, plays fast flows with the action, shows smooth lateral agility and short aerial bursts. He's got good instincts and awareness to quickly find the ball. But from what I saw, especially out of California, doesn't have enough speed, power, or bulk to fit into any linebacker position perfectly in the NFL. And talking to some scouts around the league and internally, as you guys watch the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I was talking to Alf and CK as well. I'm like, he fits that Kyle Van Noy type of mold that KVN was playing in Miami, and he'll exclusively be played as an edge rusher in Miami. Now, those are my thoughts on it, Thor. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it. The pass rushing utility is what you're looking for out of him. You're wondering about, the build of the kid, I guess. That tackling, he wasn't crazy efficient in college throughout his career. The tackling radius is a little bit smaller. He's not super duper long. The run defense, you're not going to get a bunch out of him. And then coverage, he's been up and down throughout his career. I don't think you're going to be looking for a lot, as far as that goes out of him. I was looking up his RAS score. He had a good overall RAS score, but I was looking up his
he had a 9.46 RAS score.
Yeah. So he did the full gamut of testing, and he performed pretty good. He 4.63 40, 4.22 shuttle, 6.91 3-cone, which is 90 plus percentile, 39 vertical, 92nd percentile, and a 10.5 broad, 93rd percentile. So all that stuff was really good, probably what got him drafted. But yeah,
right.
You hit it. The pass rushing utility is why you draft him, and you just see what you got from there. But I think you're putting him on the roster to be a designated pass rusher.
Yeah, 100%. And look, as a 7th round pick for Cameron Goode, his goal in training camp should be to make the week 1 roster, right? He might struggle for playing time at the beginning of the season if he makes it. But look, his pass rushing numbers out of California were impressive. And if he's able to acclimate well to the Dolphins defense and the system as well, he could provide depth behind Emmanuel Ogbah, Jalen Phillips, Andrew Van Ginkel, Melvin Ingram, and part of the reason why I think Miami brought in Melvin Ingram for just $3 million a year on the books this year is to develop a guy like Cameron Goode. Can he become somewhat similar to what Melvin Ingram was in his career, just that pass rush specialist?
Oh, well, I don't know about that.
I know it's a big thing.
Yeah,
it's a big thing to say, but I mean, we've seen some guys like that, 5th, 6th, 7th round guys, UDFA guys, CFL guys. Cameron Wake is one, for example, that
they got the same first name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that certainly would be the bonanza for him. But yeah, I think, yeah, like I said, and like you said, that the goal initially, it's not to be that, it's just to make the week 1 roster, right? Like, you're just hoping to be the designated pass rusher at the end of the bench on the week 1 roster. If he can prove that he can be that to this coaching staff, that's the bonanza for him short term. And then you see from there, right? Like a part of the issue for him, last year he missed 21% of his tackles, and over the course of his career is 17.7. So that's one of the issues. And then, I was mentioning some of the coverage issues, stuff like that. But the special sauce, like we were talking about, it's the pass rushing stuff. So you have to prove that utility. The other stuff, I don't know if the other parts of his game will ever come along. But if you can just, keep diversifying your pass rushing plan, keep leveraging your athleticism special sauce, and then keep flowering off your pass rushing plan off of that, and stuff like that. Just keep pushing that up, right? Like, prove to the coaching staff that you can do that one thing, get on the roster that way, and then see from there. That's your route, right? And is that possible? Yeah, yeah. That's why they use the draft slot on him. So I think that's the route.
Of course, and not only will Goode have to, bring up some more power or some size as well, he needs to be a little bit faster. Look, Miami's defense is young, and they play really, really fast. They got some fast linebackers. They got some fast edge rushers as well. So Goode will need to build up that speed and that strength to see if he's even able to get rotational snaps in the 2022 NFL season. As we move on to the last and final pick, Skylar Thompson, quarterback, Kansas State. So you're smiling, Thor. I know this because you're a KU alum, and you've watched him more than I have. Now, look, he had a successful career at Kansas State. Okay, he had a good, not great. He's got good NFL size. Arm talent is good. Athleticism is good as well, and I think he'll become more so as a high-end backup and maybe like elite third string quarterback.
Yeah, Skylar Thompson.
You're laughing so hard, man.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because during the pre-draft process, a few guys that I really respect, like I really respect in my industry, they really dropped the flag on Skylar Thompson. Like really, really dropped the flag on Skylar Thompson. Like I guess in the same way that I dropped the flag on Malik Willis. I shouldn't, whatever. But like I didn't get it. I didn't get it with Skylar Thompson. I watched Skylar, like you mentioned, it's not just through my, Kansas stuff, but like I cover a lot of the Big 12 just for work. And so I watched a lot of him. The stuff that you like, he's big, he moves around well. So, that stuff, he has a headiness to him. I think that I comped him to Sam Ehlinger. You
did.
He reminds me a lot of Sam Ehlinger. It's like, he'll grab some yards for you, as a rusher, short area, he like, as far as a passer, he can shuttle the ball off. Like Sam Ehlinger, he could get like I remember DuVernay would be in the slot and he could, sort of sling the ball off to him.
More so, it was like the 20 yards downfield passes for Ehlinger and Skylar Thompson. That's what they were both really, really good at.
If it was a freebie throw.
Yes, if it was a freebie throw, and the thing with Thompson was that he spreaded the ball around to multiple receivers. But the thing was, and what really gets me as if you're going to be a quarterback in the NFL, at least a decent quarterback, you need to have good processing skills and good decision-making skills. And he struggled with that. He could not improve his pre-snap recognition on a year-to-year basis and couldn't really read defenses and see the blitzes as well. He doesn't decipher from information as quickly as you would like to see in a starting caliber NFL quarterback, but he also doesn't see the entire field and understand coverages as well.
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, and I would say I think accuracy averse is fair. Like I really struggles with accuracy. I think that's another thing that was analogous to Ehlinger. Those guys both have mechanical issues as well that really needed work. Technical issues as well. So yeah, both of like those guys to me are very, very similar. So, and it's not like Miami reached for him at all. Like he ended up going around where I thought he would go. So like, I'm not begging on the pick at all. Like I thought that was absolutely fine where they ended up taking him. For a player like that, that's where he should have gone. So.
Finn's Tailgate says it's almost like all four of our picks in this year's draft are position coaching picks. It's almost like you could see the draft board and why shook out with these picks, why these are their guys. So I'm thinking with Ezukanma, it's a Wes Welker type of pick, right? Cam Goode pick, I see more so like an Austin Clark, our defensive line coach. Linebacker coach as well with Anthony can't put on. Miami really did need a linebacker as well. Like, yes, they needed to fill that vacancy. Skylar Thompson. Now, is this like a Darrell Bevell type of pick in your opinion, Thor?
Darrell Bevell. Well, Darrell Bevell used to coach in the Vikings. I think when he was here, I thought T-Jack was the quarterback. He's had all kinds of quarterbacks during his career. But maybe, like he seems to have all different kinds of flavors for his quarterbacks, but he might've been the guy that wanted him. But like Skylar Thompson was interesting in that some people were not the biggest Skylar Thompson fans, but some people loved Skylar Thompson. Like he was one of the quarterbacks in this class where there were some people that loved him, there was some people that didn't. So obviously Miami had some people in that room that absolutely loved Skylar Thompson for sure.
So now as we go on to the UDFA class, not a lot of people know about this UDFA class as well, but the highlights of this class, number one for me, is Verone McKinley III out of Oregon. He was a finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, and honestly, pre-draft summer scouting wise, I thought he would be a second round pick. Doesn't really impact much at Oregon. Got some news from a couple of scouts that basically said that Oregon at times would have to hide him in coverage as well, and that really set off some alarms. Now look, 5'10", 198 pounds, projects more so as a back end safety or a potential slot. Now, if he does play slot or the cornerback position overall, I don't think he'll last in this league very, very long. He's small and doesn't have blazing speed, but he's smart and has a nose for turnovers, which I feel like he'll be better more so as a free safety. But look, Miami safety room is pretty full. You have his teammate from Oregon, Javon Holland, fantastic guy. You got Brandon Jones. You also have Eric Rowe, who's in the last year of his deal as well. I think he'll be like the backup to the backup slot guy, special teams guy as well. But what do you project out of Verone McKinley in Miami?
You don't want him in islands in coverage, but he can play in zone for sure. He's smart in coverage. You don't want him in islands because he doesn't have the movement or the speed for it, but he's got the ball skills and the brains for it for sure. I mean, last year he broke up 12 passes and he picked off 6.
Right.
He was an All-American. And you mentioned he's an extremely heady player. I mean, he was a team leader and he's a super processor on the field. So whatever his body is going to allow him to do, what his legs are going to allow him to do, he's going to get there. It's just he doesn't have the athleticism for all the jobs. But, in a zone system, if you can give him maybe the lesser of the responsibilities, he might have the get to get there or whatever. You're going to have to figure that out or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that might take some experimentation with him. But yeah, I mean, you're just going to have to see about that in practices and stuff. That part of it, we don't know. I really like the fearlessness that kid plays with. Beyond the coverage, he's going to come out and help out in the run game as well. He's sort of a dog in that aspect as well.
Right.
He's a student of the game. Again, a team leader, a guy that's going to be pointing out the formations to his teammates, getting everyone lined up and stuff like that. So, and then you mentioned playing with his former teammate and stuff like that. So, I really like the player, and he absolutely would have been drafted were it not for his pre-draft testing. So we're just going to have to see about that.
One of the questions from Chris Capitan, the Finns tailgate as well. What do you think of UDFA Andres Blase? At the very least, he's got one of the coolest names ever. Totally football name. I think it's a long shot for any of these UDFAs to make the roster, though. Now, a little bit more about the Minnesota's Golden Gophers line more than I. I know he started all 46 games.
Blaze Andres?
Yeah, Blaze Andres.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you guys.
I guess he mixed it.
I definitely would have admitted to it if you guys had stummed me, because there are some guys I didn't do quite as much work on. But yeah, no, Blaze Andres, I thought he had a shot to get drafted, a real shot to get drafted, because he has position versatility, measured in at 6'6", 2'8", 308 pounds. He's from the high school. It's funny. He's from the high school that Trey Lance went to. In Marshall, Minnesota. But he's long and he's crazy athletic. He has the position versatility, moves around well. He's not crazy bendy, but he like I said, he moves around well, and he's taken care of some pretty good interior linemen in the Big Ten. I thought he had more potential than certainly the NFL gave him credit for. Like you said, he's battle tested against some pretty good Big Ten linemen. So, and then he tested really well. So, in addition to all the time that he had spent in the starting lineup for a Big Ten team. So I was surprised that the kid didn't get drafted, to be honest. I thought he would slide in at least 6th, 7th round after the way that he tested. I was a little bit surprised that he tested quite as well as he did, but after he did, I thought that he had punched his ticket at least into the back half of day 3.
6'6", 308 has played every single spot except for center.
Except center, yeah.
Center. Feels like a Jesse Davis type of big, but without the Jesse Davis orange cone play style as well. Let's just put it that way. Big shout out, Shake Money. Thank you so much for donating as well. We'll shoot this over to Ethan. I think Ethan will appreciate the warm regard. So thank you so much, Shake Money.
The other thing I was going to say about his wingspan is over 80. There's some guys that move well like that are even with
that's insane.
The longer frame, yeah. That maybe they didn't get drafted because they're sawed off, and the NFL has length concerns. Not with him. He is crazy long as well. The only concern on field with him is he's not a mauler. He's not going to blast people back, but as far for a zone blocking team, he's a really good fit. So again, I'm surprised as far as a really lengthy guy that moves well for a zone blocking team. I'm surprised he didn't get drafted.
I think we'll talk about a mauler a little bit later on with the next UDFA, but just a tad bit of a shout out for one of our sponsors, Prize Picks. Make sure you guys register on Prize Picks and use the promo code 5, kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or Subway's $5 footlong. Again, use the code 5 to get 100% matching deposit. Match on your deposit. Again, the code is 5. Speaking of maulers, Kellen Diesch, I thought he would be drafted out of Arizona State. Spent 4 seasons with the Aggies, was a graduate transfer for the Sun Devils, and locked down that starting left tackle spot starting in 19 straight games. Now, he's got that reputation as an athletic offensive tackle, capable of pulling him out in space in the running game and handling speed rushers in the passing games. Combine numbers, back up his pedigree, 4.89, 40-yard, 4.43, 20-yard total, 32 and 1/4-inch arms, 6'7", 301 pounds. What do you know about him, Thor?
Yeah, I mean, he was again, a guy that was battle tested in the Pac-12. He had PFF grades over 80 each of the last 2 years. Then he goes out, you mentioned it, he goes out and he tested awesome at the NFL Combine. So looking at the numbers too, I mean, 6'7" plus, 300 pounds plus, and then he didn't duck any of the tests and was 97th percentile plus athletic composite. Didn't duck one of the tests. So it was with him, he was one of the most stunning guys, in my opinion, that didn't get drafted because there wasn't one thing that you could point to. At least with, for instance, Carson Strong. We could point to Carson Strong, the rumors of the degenerative knee. You could also point to there was teams that had concerns about his maturity. With Kellen Diesch, there wasn't really anything that you could point to with him. I mean, there just really wasn't. So I was surprised that he didn't get drafted. He was one of the most surprising guys to me that didn't get drafted.
The other guy who didn't really get drafted as well, who I thought would be, was Zaquandre White out of South Carolina. 2 seasons with the Gamecocks after transferring from JUCO. Before that, he played linebacker at Florida State. Served as a rotational back, recorded 583 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns this past season. 6 foot, 206, another thick guy, but an explosive guy. He plants his foot in the ground, boom, he jets right upfield to create big plays, kind of like a Raheem Mostert as well. And he profiles more so as that third guy in the rotation, just a little bit more raw because he needs to learn how to follow his blocks and execute certain rushing concepts correctly, especially in a wide zone system that Mike McDaniel runs.
Yeah, he's a guy that can break tackles, and he's a guy that can catch the ball. Does he have the juice for the NFL? We're going to see. He's never completely carried the load, but like you mentioned, he's not going to be expected to in the NFL. So can he fit into, can he fit into one of those specific slots as, for instance, a third down guy? Is he going to be the best guy for that role on a roster, on Miami's roster? We're going to find out. And if he can, he's going to win the job. But he does have skills for sure. It's just, can he win one of those jobs? If not, I think he's absolutely a fit for the practice squad, and I assume that might be the plan here.
Of course, the other guy is Jordan Williams from Virginia Tech, one of the defensive tackles as well. And Lance Zierlein basically said he's a priority free agent for him if he was one of the GMs, and he was picked up as a UDFA. Now, he's thing with Jordan Williams that he's caught in between, from what I saw, he's caught in between positions. He's a tweener edge, he's a tweener defensive tackle, and he doesn't have the body type for both. We say in the scouting world, you don't look at college production and how it translates to the NFL. But his production was pedestrian during his time at both Clemson and Virginia Tech. I think he possesses more ability than what the statistics may indicate. You see his lateral foot quickness in the run game, and as a rusher, it creates early advantages, but he's still learning to convert those advantages to wins, and he's laid off the snap as well. He can work on his leverage a little bit as well, but practice squad guy, in my opinion. What about you, Thor?
Yeah, I think you said it. Yeah, you have to figure out what he is. He's going to have to develop his body, either way, right? Whether he's going one way or the other. And you have to figure that out, and you're going to have to work on him with what the position is. And then you're going to have to refine a couple elements of his game. Little inconsistent tackling, for instance. You mentioned the leverage thing. Then working on the play strength. But yeah, I mean, if you can figure out where the position is, start to work on some of those things, he at least has, a couple of things like, for instance, length, right? So you have a couple of things to work on if you can find the position for him.
In regards to Kellen Diesch, Martina Davies asks, short arms is the reason for Diesch not getting drafted, in my opinion. Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends on what team's value. I know in his own scheme run game, you need to have a little bit longer arms, and Diesch more so projects towards the interior as a guard. I think that'll where his best fit will be in Miami. Outside, maybe I don't necessarily have knowledge on that for him not getting drafted, just solely based on his arms. What about you, Thor?
It doesn't explain it for me. I don't know. I mean, yeah, 32 and a quarter for a player that played that well and a 6'7", 301 and his 97th percentile athleticism that was that battle tested and played that well in the Pac-12. I don't know. For me, that is a draftable player 7 days out of 7. So I don't know. That's just me. I don't know.
3 days out of 3, you mean?
10 days out of 7. I don't know.
As we get to the last two, they're more so wide receivers. We'll talk about Braylon Sanders out of Ole Miss a little bit as well. Rotational starter.
Oh shit.
With the
I got like 4 more minutes. I'm getting a couple calls, but yeah, I got 4 more.
Yeah. So you know what? Instead of Sanders, we know what he is: downfield speed guy, struggled to stay on the field due to injuries, needs work and route running. But Tanner Connor, Idaho State, profiles as a deep threat at the next level. Got good size, speed to create mismatches on the outside. 6'2", 230, and blew scouts away at his pro day. 4.37, 40-yard dash, 39.5-inch vertical. 10 foot 7 inch in the broad jump as well. 34 receptions, 685 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And participated in track and field. Speed demon guy, but does it make up for his route running?
You're gonna have to teach him that, right? The other thing, you got to work on the hands a little bit. Of course, the degree of difficulty goes up catching the ball down the field, but he was playing in the subdivision. He had some issues with the dropsies as well. But between those two things, you're gonna have to work on them. Here's the thing: you can actually work on those two things. You can't teach the size and the speed that he's got, right? So that's the reason you bring in a kid like that. I like taking shots on those guys as opposed to, for instance, the guy who has vice grip hands but is 5'7", 180 pounds and can run precise routes or whatever. So there's a reason you take shots on guys like this and you try to teach them the other stuff. it's a good dart throw. I mean, 6'3", 226 or whatever with the 90th percentile or whatever. That's the kind of stuff that you want to take the dart throws on.
Gosh. Before we go, I want to shout out some of our followers, Shake Money as well. If you guys, this is a primarily Heat network as well. Let's go Miami Heat. Hope they beat the Boston Celtics tonight. Again, Shake Money, thank you for donating as well. Martina, Chris Capitan as well. Thank you guys for watching as well. Steve, Chalk Van Straw as well. Thank you guys as well. Thor, what's on deck for you now that the draft is over?
Man, I don't know what's coming next week. I just put out my AFC and NFC draft haul rankings, which is where I combine what teams got in the draft and in the UDFA to see who got the best overall talent. And then I divide that by draft equity spent to determine who got the best ROI in the draft, which I will say, since we're on a Miami thing, Miami did very, very well in that. They did not spend much equity and they got a decent amount of talent against the equity they spent. So, and that's not even considering the Tyreek Hill trade. So good job by Miami this year. But you can find all my work on NBC Sports Edge, and you can find me on Twitter at ThorKU. And I'm going to try to keep catching up on my sleep as well.
Yeah, man, catch some sleep, get some Z's, get your coffee as well. Before I let you go, what's your projection for the Miami Dolphins this season?
17-0 Super Bowl winners.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Fins forever.
Fins forever. We love to hear that. We love to hear that. I wish I could have you on. We could talk a little bit more about Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher.
Dude, we'll do it later this summer for sure.
We'll definitely do it later this summer. 2023 summer scouting prospects as well.
Yeah, let's do it on the books. I'm down for sure.
We'll get it on the books. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching as well. There we go. 17-0. Chris Capitan loves that. Loves that. As you guys know, make sure you guys follow 5 Reasons Sports Network. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Thor as well. We'll get the Heat coverage tonight as well. Brady will have his breakdowns. Ethan will be there as well. He'll be tweeting like crazy. We'll have pre-game, post-game, and in-game analysis as well. And I'll keep you guys updated on the Miami Dolphins on the Dono Show. Here on the Scouting Combine, we got a lot of stuff planned for summer scouting along with the colleges and your Miami Dolphins. Thank you guys, and fins up, baby.